Like a little voice said, this call is now being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, you can go ahead and turn off your video and audio. Your mic, that is. I'm not going to talk ever again.
From now on, we'll call you Max Headroom.
Sharon, I gotta say, it looks fabulously beautiful where you are. You're on mute. I can't hear you.
This is the swing that I'm on is over 100 years old. It was my great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very pretty.
Well, thank you. How is it? Smoky there? No?
It's pretty awful today. Yeah.
Well, come on up anytime.
Tempted, I'll tell you.
That's good. So now what? Okay.
Aaron Perot, will you say for us today? I'll present the prayers.
Yes, I can do that. Tell me, are you ready?
Yeah, what do I do?
Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, nor of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, Supreme One, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, nor of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, Supreme One, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, nor of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, Supreme One, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. When you, chief of humans, were born, you took 7 steps on this great earth, and you said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise at that time, I prostrate. Completely pure body, supremely fine form, ocean of wisdom like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, supreme protector, to you I prostrate. Endowed with the supreme marks, a face like the stainless moon, a color like gold, to you I pay homage. The 3 worlds are not like you, who is free from dust, matchless one, endowed with knowledge. To you I prostrate. Protector endowed with great compassion, omniscient teacher, field of ocean-like merits and good qualities, to the thus gone I prostrate. Through purity, free from attachment, through virtue, releases from the evil gone realms, unique, supreme, ultimate meaning, to the Dharma that brings peace, I prostrate. From freedom, teaching the path, while abiding in the pure trainings, holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha also I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma Refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action. Accumulate virtue and goodness. Subdue your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Like a star, a mirage, a lamp, illusions, drops of dew, bubbles, dreams, lightning and clouds, look at all conditioned phenomena as such. Due to this merit, having attained the state of the all-seeing, and thereby subduing the enemy of faults, may I liberate migrators from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the joyful happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from holding some close and others distant. Respectfully, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtuous actions of all ordinary and noble beings. Please, Buddha, remain as our guide, and turn the wheel of Dharma until samsara ends. Through the merit created by myself and others, may the two bodhicittas ripen, and may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. This offering I make of a precious jeweled mandala, together with other pure offerings and wealth, and the virtues we have collected throughout the 3 times with our body, speech, and mind. O my masters, my yidams, and the 3 precious jewels, I offer all to you with unwavering faith. Accepting these out of your boundless compassion, please send forth waves of your blessings. Yidam Guru Radha Mandala Kamniyatiyami. The Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vulture's Mountain on Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, and up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, and up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata, gate, gate, par sam gate bodhisoha. Tayata, gate, par sam gate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the bodhisattva and mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the bodhisattva and mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan.
So now it's okay. I'm in a nice air-conditioned temple, so but one person's outside in New York. I wonder what the temperature in New York is right now. I think the topic today is love and justice, something like that. Is that right? Is that the correct topic? Something like that. A couple of times over the course of my career, where publicly we do a public talk for a teacher that comes, And of course, we advertise it ahead of time, and they usually give that talk. But maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I had a talk that I asked Jada Rinpoche to do, our head teacher, and he said, "What's, just before going in, he said, what's the talk on?" And I said, whatever it was, and he goes, "Oh, I don't remember doing that." And give a totally different talk. People giving talks on topics, myself or other lamas or students. I have a little bit of a Quaker in me, so if you must talk about something else, that's really okay. Hopefully, as always, well thought out and articulate, right? But I'm going to stick to topic today, but I'm acknowledging it's a big topic. A couple of times, I think I've given talk on love things. I know Sarah Altschul has, very good. She's interested in giving another talk, maybe in November, something like that. I hope. Recently, when I was talking to Susan Farrar, I said, it's fairly easy to understand the nature of awareness, or it's fairly doable. So if you said to somebody, have you had some realization in these fundamental truths? But that's fairly easy. But it's very hard to uncondition love. We're having some technical issues here. Are we okay? No? Bigger? I get to be bigger? Yeah. That looks pretty good. Is that better? Is it better? Raise your hand. Okay. So if we say to somebody, well, if someone asks us, we could say, yes, I have some realization. Here is emptiness means completely open awareness, or the absolute truth of things means interdependence. Or even if you want to be Zen style, you can let out a shout or hit something with your stick, right? And just say it is what it is. But when we're talking about human relationships and talking about love, then it's not so easy, is it? I think it's difficult. And then when we talk about what's justice, what's fairness, what's equal distribution of resources or access to resources, what are individual rights and how to fix things, talk about politics, then it gets kind of murky, doesn't it? So I would think, if I'm thinking kind of from my child level, the relative truth, truth of relationships, truth of how to express love, how to do things with fairness and justice should be really easy. It should be very straightforward, but knowing what absolute reality is, the complete nature of mind, should be difficult, right? So my guess is probably if we were able to find a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old and say, or 8-year-old, maybe somewhere around there, just say, well, what's love and what's the right thing to do? I think they would be able to come up with something fairly quickly and maybe quite profound. What do you think? But if we just said, okay, well, that was great, but what's absolute reality? There we go. I don't know. Maybe you have some really smart kids. That's possible. You come up with that. So I think from a kid's point of view, it should be really easy. When I was really young, we didn't have a TV, you know. My family could afford a TV. I think my parents were kind of Luddites, you know, but when we finally got a TV, my mom could watch the soap operas. It used to be on the radio. Yeah, I used to watch them on the radio. This is in the 50s, you know. So that was my first introduction and interest in becoming a therapist, you know, or something. Because there were these soap operas, and then as a kid, maybe it was 7 or 8, I'd go, Mom, why don't they just tell the truth? Why don't, you know, can't they just work it out? You know, that kind of stuff. And she would laugh and say the mantra, which was very familiar, which was like, you'll understand when you grow up. I still don't understand, but you know, maybe it's that I'm not growing up. That's possible too. But I think generally, you know, when we ask children about, you know, fairness and justice and what the right thing to do, they come up with these correct unconditional answers. I don't know if my daughter Hillary's watching today. I think she's out hiking in New Mexico, but I remember one time going to the store and she didn't, it was maybe 5 or 6, she didn't understand money, why we needed cash, you know, why you have to get in line. She said, why don't we just go to the store and people just take what they need, you know? It's like that, right? We just, you know, they'll just take what they need and that's it, and then they go home, right? That makes total sense, right? Like that. So that kind of world, or I'm sure from your own childhood or having your own children, you had stories like that. And I'd like to hear about those, you know, maybe during discussion time, you know, where as kids, they're just saying, you know, why can't we just get along? One of the greatest lessons, of course, is if you're in relationship with someone and you're adults and you're arguing, there's usually some kind of crazy idea that your kids can't hear you. And of course, it's embarrassing when your kid comes up, or kids, and says, can Dad or Mom, can you guys stop arguing? I can't get to sleep. It's very humbling, isn't it? Hopefully I was there to hear that at the time, and I'm sure that happened quite a few times. So kids just know immediately, like, why argue? You know, why work it out? So the relative world, the world of relationships, is easier. Of course, kids get into fights too and have trouble at school. But I'll be interested in people's experiences and comments when we can take a discussion. You know, why doesn't everybody have enough to eat? You know, why do some people, we weren't around homeless people that much, but you know, why are people suffering? These kinds of things, kids now ask that naturally. They're very curious, and they usually have very good answers. I'm a little bit more technical. I'm losing you, so. Can they still hear me? Should I still be talking? Oh, okay. I didn't watch very much of the Democratic convention, but I was kind of happy to see that there were some technical difficulties. Yeah, like that. here at Roar Dharma Center, if we come regularly and or see ourselves as students of Dharma, you'll hear me, I'll talk about being a professional bodhisattva. So a professional bodhisattva for me means someone who has a motivation to help relieve others and their own suffering and share and teach. But if we really have to help people, we have to do it. We have to have some skills. So here I'm hoping people are getting skills on how to be introspective, how to notice what's going on with them, and then how to benefit others. Majority of Buddhism that we're studying is probably like how to gain some self-insight, some wisdom. There hasn't been much coming out of Roar, I guess, on social justice issues. Although, I appreciate Jack giving a talk. She's somewhere, I think, Jack giving a talk last Sunday on social justice. But I want to say that it's an important part, and I want to establish a little bit of my credentials. So for a long time, I participated in the Buddhist Peace Fellowship and was on the board. And then had the great opportunity to meet some seminal figures such as Thich Nhat Hanh in person. And I did volunteer at Folsom Prison for 10 years. My other credentials, my privileged credentials are quite good. So I like to emphasize that I don't have strong social justice credentials in the traditional sense, but I have great privilege. So Scarsdale, New York, and everything that a very privileged, wealthy family could offer, like that. We weren't the Rockefellers, but basically materially and opportunity-wise had everything. Didn't have sanity, but we had everything like that. So growing up in privilege and continuing in that, means I have like limited view on what we normally think of social justice issues or direct action kinds of things. I've never been arrested in America, although I've been in demonstrations in the past, but I have the credential of being arrested in India. And you do not want to get arrested in India. So when I was in India as a monk, my first time, I didn't know that the Westerners or non-Tibetans were supposed to pay a fee to the Indian government to visit a Tibetan settlement, which included Sarajay Monastery. Some of you know this story. And one time I was on my way to visit the abbot, and the Indian police were on the campus. And seeing that I was a foreigner, they asked me for my papers. And I was totally clueless. I wasn't totally clueless. By then I was there, I knew I should have had them, but I didn't have them. So of course I go, what papers? And I was willing to kind of play it along or say, oh gosh, I've got some rupees back in my room, I'll go get them, because that's generally what you would say in India. But the monk I was with said, talk back to the officer, and we ended up talking with the officer in a more difficult way going forward, like, this is really unfair, you guys are targeting Tibetans, and it turned into that. And then about then more monks coming out of the classrooms and the residence houses and the temples. So at one point there were probably like 300 monks, and it was just nuts, and there were then by then about 4 Indian police, and they didn't buy the idea that it was unjust to target the Tibetan settlements and extract a fee for visitors. Do you think it's unjust? Sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Because from my point of view, the idea was that actually it's true. Like a lot of the Tibetans now still feel they're part of kind of a ghetto thing, like that they can't. Traditionally, Tibetans can't own land in India. I don't know if people knew that. You have to kind of buy it through someone else. So they were kind of grouped in small communities and they supported their monasteries, but there was no sense of, or still is no sense of, rights or justice. The police can just come in and take you away. So actually, we got arrested. And because I didn't go back to get my money and they wouldn't let me go back, and it was a hullabaloo at that point. So we spent a day in jail, and it felt like something out of like some weird Hollywood movie or Deliverance or something. And Tibetans actually got Tibetan attorneys. So thank you, attorneys out to come and plead the case. And I think paid a fine and we got let out. It didn't feel like a successful social justice situation at all. And by that time, I was totally notorious at Sarah J. And I still am, I'm sure. They know who I am, like that. But I have raised probably students or in connections just to help out the monastic and Tibetan communities, probably a couple $100,000. So that's been probably the major part of the last 20 years. What Lions has done is helping out with refugee populations in India and so forth. So that's been positive, sending money there, like addressing in a nonviolent way, using nonviolent communication. In India, it didn't work. Because when I was in Sarah J as monk, I was still a licensed therapist and everything, and taking courses in NVC, nonviolent therapy, nonviolent communication, and failure. So my credentials are, just so you know, I'm complete, kind of a social justice failure, and still, kind of white privileged like that. But I do want to start having dialogue and having, some training in how we can feel, not just making an impact through our Dharma practice or meditation or just people we run into or people here at the center, but how we can be a benefit. The major way actually I've been a benefit is through trying to create organizations such as Lions or Middle Way Health or Middle Way Health Foundation, and to create environments where people can heal or wake up or interact. Because now I'm not, I think I'm not that good at social justice issues, but I do actually have a photo of me with Willie Brown. So back in the day when I was a workers' comp counselor, our organization, our PAC or whatever, we gave him a lot of money, so he voted for us. Does that count, guys? I mean, that all sounds kind of sleazy, but it's true. We did. We like Marie's going like, like, but he voted for the workers' comp bill. Okay, so my defense. I mean, some people didn't like Willie, and I said, well, maybe you don't like him, but he's our guy. So that was what we did. But, I'd like to, take a break and hear about. I'm interested in people's experience, like that little bit tension between, love and justice. Like it seems so easy for kids to say this is what should be done and let's just do it. But why do we as adults have such a struggle with that? We say these wonderful prayers, particularly the Brahma Viharas, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from pain. And in the past, and I hope it still continues, my kids would call me on that, But then why do we have such a hard time? Why are there? Why is it hard to follow through on that? So I'd like to hear people's actual experiences if some people are willing to tell some stories on themselves. I should want to preface that by most of the talks that in India that lamas give, other than a very philosophical talk, is they're telling stories. That's the preferred way that you're teaching. So of course, if you're teaching doctrine, it can be very this way. And most of the talks we give are little kind of philosophical kind of sermons kind of style. But in India, a lot of times when we're hearing teachings, the teachers are actually telling stories. It's a storytelling tradition, actually. They're telling stories about themselves or other people or incidents and things like that. So if someone's brave enough and tells a story that they know about love and justice or these issues, I'd be interested. So we have to call in people? I can't remember. I'm not going to call in anybody. You're just going to, if they want to talk, then they just talk up, right?
I'm happy to share one.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Morning, Lama. Good to see you.
Hi.
So mine definitely involves privilege, and in this one I didn't get arrested, but I have been as well. I was on a cruise in the Southern Caribbean at a beautiful island called St. Lucia, and I was up on a hilltop taking pictures, and I noticed the police rolling up on us. And the way they were coming, it just didn't seem very friendly to me. So I put my camera away, and I was standing next to somebody that had the full-on digital lens camera, the SLR, all that stuff in there, and like $10,000 worth of equipment, busy snapping away this just gorgeous view. And the police walked right up to this person and asked for his papers. And he's like, "What papers?" And like, "To take a picture." He's like, I have to have papers to take a picture? And they're like, "You don't even know? Like, you were stealing the soul of our island every time you take a picture. For that, of course, we're going to charge you." And they just confiscated all of his equipment right then and there for the court case that I'm sure he never went to. So it was one of those things that to me is such a reminder that, like, when we travel to other places, they have entirely different ways of doing things. And being ignorant about those things makes us bad tourists. And so I was lucky because, I have seen the police roll up before, so I was aware of my surroundings. But this guy, no clue at all, right? And just took all of his stuff. I felt bad for him, but I also kind of felt good for them at the same time. It's like, good for you having, your belief system that you're enforcing here and being able to do that. So.
Yes. Travel is a good example of how, we have to contextualize or look at our justice issues or our love or realization. Is that applicable to all settings, So that's a good example. Sad, but good. someone else wanted to say something.
I do, yeah. I have a story and just an observation. One thing that I learned actually from, I was very fortunate that when I worked in the book trade, Cornel West was one of my customers, the great Black intellectual here in the United States. And one of the things that he taught me is that while we can think of systems with anger, you approach individuals with love. And he calls it radical love, because you're approaching someone who maybe is diametrically opposed to you with this love, but that the anger is reserved for the systems and that the love is turned toward the people. And I had the extraordinary experience of having this man show me my own ingrained, learned racism as an American, like in the moment, in the store, after I smarted off to him. And it was an extraordinary moment to have this man look at me and go, Sister Marie, that was a racist statement. And if you have a moment, I'd like to explain to you why. And he did. And it changed my life. And he could have reacted completely differently. And another thing I've learned is that Black people have no obligation to teach us how to behave and to teach us about racism. But he took that time and just revolutionized my life and my thought process. And it came from a deep place of love and compassion. And even though I felt like I was dying in that moment, it really gave me an opportunity to grow and change. So I'll never forget it, and I'll always be grateful for it, but it was awful in the moment.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Yeah, I appreciate that. Good point. Who else is here? I'd like to hear
Lama.
about struggles. Yeah. Hello.
Well, I first encountered this situation when I was in the 4th grade. And I come from a pretty privileged family, but we moved around the United States the whole time I was growing up. And we moved from Santa Maria, California to Huntsville, Alabama in 1963, when the Civil Rights Movement was happening. And my textbook at school was telling me how good the KKK were and how the entire struggle of the South was against the oppressive North, and that Black people were happy as slaves, things like that. I was shocked to read those things, and I was ostracized as a 4th grader. So by the time I made it to, Southern California in the like 1970, and I was riding a bus in Los Angeles, and I had taken 2 years of Black history, a year of independent studies in Black history. I was pretty sure I wasn't racist, And I got on a bus in LA, and the bus driver, Black American bus driver, said, I got on and I looked at him, I put in my money, and he goes, "You're a racist." There was nobody on the bus except me. He said, "You're a racist." And I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Yeah, you are." I said, "Well, that's just bullshit, I mean, blah, 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 blah." He said, "Yeah," but he showed me that I was a racist. It's amazing how deep it runs among the white privileged classes who've never actually encountered any of the suffering. In Alabama, of course, I had sharecroppers living in one-room shacks on my dirt road. And you could see in the winter time when it was snowing, you could see into their shacks. Those are the people picking the cotton that we all wear in our clothes that we complain that they're too expensive. So anyway, that's not my entire experience, but that's a little bit of it. And for me, that was always a big struggle and a big issue from the time we moved to Alabama. basically.
Thank you. The stories are important because the way we, in our tradition, the way we weave together the absolute and relative world is through telling stories. We study things philosophically, and we meditate on things and principles, but actually to make it work, our lives work, is we tell stories to ourselves and we tell stories back and forth. That's actually how we weave, we talk about absolute relative reality and our Dharma, and we all know what that means, right? But how do we get those to work together is we have to do it through story and dialogue. That's our primary thing we do. So that's why the Buddha said, I don't heal just by laying on of hands. I don't wash away karma with water. I don't transfer realizations. I just teach. And teach in this case means we establish a dialogue with ourselves. We tell a story about ourselves and ask someone else to tell their story. So when a teacher is really working with you on an intimate level around very difficult teachings, they're not just going to sit there and say, okay, what's nature of reality? In Vajrayana and very similar in Zen practice, which we've done a lot of, they're going to tell you a story. People know about some of the stories of the Mahasiddhas that we've talked about, and people that have done some Zen training maybe know about koan work and the stories. And so the teacher will say, where does that story land with you? Add to the story. What's the story mean to you? So we have to learn how to interpret the story like that. And we have to share the story that has some kind of little dynamic tension in it. So that's why I mentioned a number of times, my teacher would say, did you study this text or did you study that text? He would tell a story and then ask me to interpret it.
Lama?
Of course, yes. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have appreciated your comments, and especially in thinking about children, since I have two of them at home. We do have conversations a lot when we see homeless people, and we have a person who comes to our house regularly who comes and asks for help to help, which he in turn helps homeless people. And my children are very generous, and they will always go to their piggy banks and give them money. And I always feel this tension about loving their generosity and also not wanting them to be taken advantage of.
Right.
And I do think that, to me, is this big tension in our society, and where I sometimes wonder how we lose that wholeheartedness, is that we have stories throughout our life where we've been played or we're made to feel the fool for our generosity. And I feel like the challenge right now is that we're living in a time where generosity is kind of seen as being a sucker. And it's very challenging as a parent to support that wholehearted quality when you feel like your kids are getting all these other lessons that actually being wholehearted and generous just sets you up to be a fool. And that's painful. That's a painful thing. So I do appreciate the Sangha, and I wish there was more Sangha for the kids, so they also had that support, that being generous is our natural state. That is you see somebody suffering, you want to help them, but it gets really covered up very quickly sometimes. So it makes me sad. So, but thank you for your words, and any ideas, send them my way.
May I tell a story related to that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was in New York City,
you.
and I've always, my sister would say, "Oh, you were always more generous than everybody. You were always so generous." Well, you know, that may or may not have been true. The reason I said that is because I'm in New York City, and a guy asked me for money. He comes up, he's got quite the scam going, but I fell for it and I gave him some money. And then a couple of weeks later, I was walking with a guy that to me was the most genuine spiritual practitioner, one of the most genuine spiritual practitioners I've ever met. He was a Christian. And the same guy walked up to us and gave the same pitch. And I said to him, I go, don't give him any money. This is a scam. And he said, it's not a question for me to decide whether or not it's a scam. He asked me for some money. I'm going to give him some money. That simple. What other people thought about it, what anybody else considers about it, completely unimportant. He was only concerned with his own motives, his own belief in how things should be done.
I mean, when I worked in the prison, so I worked as a psychiatrist at Folsom State Prison, at the maximum security prison, for a couple of years. And I would often have conversations with the guards about, like, they're like, well, what if he's playing you? I'm like, you know what? If he's playing me, he's losing out, right? Like, I'm here to be helpful to him. And if he wants to play me and break that trust, that's on him. And that I didn't want to be a person walking through that kind of work feeling like I'm going to withhold or decide. Like, I can give freely and openly, which is my favorite thing, right? Only give what you can with openness and possibility, which is in our wedding vows, which is in, like, the copy of the precepts that I have, you know? And I think that that is something I wish was cultivated more, that we just give what we can, and then what somebody else does with it is what they do with it. But that all we have control over is ourselves, right? About making that choice. And so I wish there was more stories like that out there, because I feel like we need to hear those kind of stories much more to support ourselves in giving all we can with openness and possibility, you know, because it's hard. It's hard when you feel the back slap of being ashamed, or that you were foolish. And how do we combat that feeling? Especially in kids, because I think they're very sensitive to that, right? Like, we all know what that sting feels like. And trying to help with that sting and have it not close you down, but open you up instead. So thanks, Sturp, for your story.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. You know, I'm always stimulated by these conversations because I like this style, and also like thinking about giving Dirk jobs. And you know, if we had like some posting on the website, or so we told stories about how we dealt with institutional things or individual things. So have a little different style than the usual kind of, you know, slapping down principles. This is what we believe in, or this is what we're for or against. But just, you know, tell some stories that, you know, have failures and have successes, or ends in questions. Maybe we could have like them written out, or maybe people could just online listen to people who wanted to tell some stories. What do you think? Could we do something like that, Dirk?
Yeah, I'm not sure what form it would take, but we could do something like that, sure.
Well, something kind of original where we're teaching, we're offering, seeing like sharing how we do things in a real way, instead of just saying, well, Buddhists believe that you should be nice to everybody, so here's what you should do. You know, that style, which, or, you know, we're Buddhists, so we don't do that kind of thing, that style. No, instead we're kind of talking.
Not I'm a Buddhist, so I never get mad, but this time I got mad at this guy, and this is what happened.
Yeah, like that, you know.
So are you thinking videos, or
maybe
written?
You know, maybe it could be, you know, somewhat written or somewhat screenshot or video. I see Autumn watching today and kind of going, Autumn and I are going to try to do something on mental health, I think. That's
We
the
will.
plan.
Yeah.
We will. Yes, not try. We will. So, yeah, maybe a little video, but, you know, teaching stories. So they're wonderful examples of teaching stories in India and Tibet, you know, and in traditional cultures. They're,
You know, on Lama, on Monday and Wednesday, I mean, on a Sunday and Wednesday, no, is it Sunday and Wednesday, Kangshi Rinpoche, when he teaches on those dates, he tells a lot of stories.
yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like that, you know. So, I grew up with some good stories from grandparents. There weren't that really many good stories in Presbyterian church. So it's a little dry. So I used to, you know, go with some friends to the synagogue, and there were much better stories, you know. And I, of course, didn't understand Hebrew, but, you know, I kind of like got it. And people would sit around more and tell stories in New York. And I just liked that service a lot better because it would be stories with a point, you know. So maybe we could do something like that, you know. And they're teaching and they're sharing and it's personal all at the same time, and like that. So it's a little bit after 2. I don't want to go much longer. 12, sorry. And but if anyone else would like to share, that would be nice.
I have one more. I have one to share.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's of help. I wanted to share a little bit about social justice and the issues of racism that we're facing right now. And, you know, it can seem very overwhelming when you think about it, all the big issues we have, but I've found great benefit in bringing it personal, bringing it down to myself and my own sphere. And in 2012, I met a student, a Black student, female, who I had a strong pull towards, that I really loved her work, and I was helping her, you know, instructing her. And I had this welling up inside of me that said, if I could get her an internship at the Sacramento Bee, she could really soar. So I sort of like tried to get her name brought up with my bosses, and they were really attached to larger universities, and I could never make it happen. And then recently I started looking over my past and thinking about what I could do as a journalist to bring in more Black viewpoints to tell their own story. And she was brought up in my mind again. And I also attended a conference where they said, no gesture is too small. This Black photographer said, my teacher drove me to my first assignment, and now he's doing amazing. So I reached out to her. I said, you have unlimited potential. I've always felt that I wanted to support your work. There's this grant program coming up. Can I support you in not help, say, how can I support you in doing this? And she was just waiting. She was waiting for this opportunity. So now that I put myself out there, we're like thick as thieves this last week working together to get her work moving forward. And it feels so good. Like 8 years I sat on this to finally like have the courage to say, can I support you? So I think that these little things can add up to a lot. And if you ever feel compelled to support somebody, sometimes it's as simple as just asking, and don't let your fear get in the way of doing something good when you feel compelled. That's my story.
Totally. Yeah. What I'd like to do too is sometimes, you know, people are telling stories back and forth to each other, right? So it doesn't have to be just one person. Kind of a story that I wish I had been able to video, like happened years ago when I was in college. My roommate Bob Polifka was a political science major and very outspoken. And, you know, we would go back down to his house in Long Island, and, you know, it was like, he occasionally would get into discussions with his mom about Israel and Palestine and everything. And, you know, we read about things kind of on the newspaper or something, you know, I was kind of informed on that level. But, you know, growing up in New York and, you know, kind of informed, but it was, you know, Bob took the position of kind of the Palestinian position. And his mom took a very like, you know, you're my son, how can you say anything against Israel? You know, it's really intense, you know, but it really gave me a really insight into how, you know, justice and things like that and family history and, you know, it's just really fascinating to capture them together. And they both loved each other, they both articulate. I mean, weren't shouting, but it was a very passionate discussion about, you know, history and human rights and, you know, what do we do in these impossible situations? And, you know, fortunately I've kept in touch with Bob. He's now a retired Wall Street attorney and president of the synagogue. So, but, you know, it's not until sometimes we're directly affected and we have a history with these issues that we really get to know them. And I'd like to have some dialogue like that too. You know, we can, people telling kind of how their story, you know, like that. What do you think? So I think we did record this, right? Okay, so I hope you stay cool. I'm looking forward to massage I'm getting this afternoon from Matthew Cruz and Noble Hearts, right? Noble Hearts massage. So I love a good massage. I'm gonna dedicate those wonderful good feelings to, you know, I don't know how to send them to you, but I know they're going to be great. So I hope you all have them. You know, like that. So let's do prayers.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of obdicless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the Snowy Land sages, Losang Dragpa, I make request at your holy feet.
Thank you, Lama.
Oh, thank you, Morris. So I want you to tell some Hasidic stories sometime. Will you do that? I know
Yes.
you know a lot of them.
With pleasure, yeah. Thank you.
That would be great. And
Will do.
also, you're supposed to get your poetry up on the wall.
Okay. As soon as I have
You got to
access,
frame.
access to the building, the poetry is there.
Okay, we'll work that out.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I don't want to do the announcements, so Dana's here. Maybe Dana can do the announcements. You can just, it'll pick you up.
I can't have a speaker, so you gotta actually use that. Okay. Well, am I on camera or either way? You can hear me though. They're here. So on Tuesday we have a 6:30 chat, Sangha chat group, being facilitated by who? Oh, Jules and James. That's amazing. Great. And so I assume there's going to be a link, a Zoom link for that, and that's pretty amazing. Thursday we have a 7:30 Khenpo Rinpoche Philosophy of Tantra. That'd be great. I'd like to join that one. Shoot, I forgot. Okay. And then I changed things around. Okay.
I gotta see clients. I gotta help people.
Yeah. And then Saturday we have, is this the first weekend of the Steps on a Buddhist Path being led by Susan Ferrara, right? So I believe that's at 10 to 12 o'clock, kind of like a Buddhist for Beginners group, right? And I believe the book is Pema Chodron's, no? There's many offerings available. Many offerings available for basically we're doing the Bodhisattva way of life though. Shantideva's Bodhisattva way of life. Great. And then Geshe Sering says hello to everyone. Sering? Say Wong is saying it says hello to everyone. So hopefully people can hear that announcement.
Super, thanks. Spontaneous, yeah. Okay, we did it. So please enjoy. Good to see you all. It's great. La la la.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Lama.
Karen. That was good. Thanks for being on today. And
Thank you.
Like, la la la. Yeah, thank you, Dirk.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you, Dirk. See you soon. I will call you.
Thank you, Lama.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great connecting with everyone.
Yeah, thanks, James. Okay, I can go.